Hello students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastava from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. Talking about the labor, talking about the employees, talking about the valuable human resources of the organization is an important aspect of human resource management department. Now over here in this lecture we are going to study about international labor standards for the people who are moving from the home country to the host country. Now, what exactly is international labor standards? They are the comprehensive set of legal instruments that establish basic principles and the right to work, rights at work. Now, of course, when we talk about human resources, certain kind of legal activities, certain kind of legislations also come into play. Like the organization has to look after the hygiene factor, the organization has to look after the infrastructure factor, it has to look after the you can say health, safety and welfare measures of the people who are coming to their organization and work. So when we talk in the international term, we have international labor standards. So it is a set of legal instruments which come into play, which are dealing with the basic principles and the rights at work. So when we are expanding, when we are having people in the host country working in the subsidiary, we have to look after the basic rights, we have to look after the basic principles that that country is having in relation to these people. Now it is working towards the goal of improving working conditions on a global scale. International labor standards, they are being set up so that the organizations are continuously improving their work standards, they are improving their working conditions, and it is done on a global scale. Why? Because in international human resource management, we are talking in terms of international context, where more than one country is working. People from home country are moving to the host country, people from third nation country are also moving to the home country and the host country. So this movement of labor, this movement of employees from one nation to the another, when they cross the borders of one nation to the another nation, there is a need to implement certain legal instruments on the work conditions of these people. Otherwise, what will happen? There will be exploitation of the people, there will be exploitation in regards to their health, their safety by these organizations. So, the conventions and the recommendations of International Labour Organization form the international labor standards. So, International Labour Organization is a central organization which forms various legal instruments through conventions and recommendations which are being implemented on all the organizations in regards to the people who are working in these organizations. The areas which are covered by international labor standards, they include basic human rights, it includes occupational safety, health, wages, working time, the shifts of the people, employment policy, promotion, vocational guidance, training and development, skill development, specific categories of workers, labor administration, inspection, maternity protection, and social security. So it is an exhaustive list which covers all the areas to be covered under international labor standards. So when as an organization is going to expand in a host country, it has to take into consideration all the legal instruments, all the conventions and recommendations that are being placed by International Labor Organization in regard to basic areas which are covered under ILS. Now, how was this ILO formed? Now, following were the subjects by international labor standards. So, covering all the subjects that were covered under international labor standards, the International Labor Organization was formed. So, this creation of International Labor Organization was on the basis of various factors which were covered under international labor standards. They can be related to wages, working time, occupational safety, health, social security, maternity protection, social policies, etc. They can also be related to administrative aspects of a business like labor administration, labor inspection, different policies related to your labor, employment promotion, how promotions are done, they are biased or non-biased, what are the categories or what are the criterias of this promotion, vocational guidance and types of training that you provide to the people, they are all coming under legal instruments. Freedom of association, collective bargaining, forced labor is abolished, child labor is abolished, equality of opportunity and treatment at the workplace, tripartite consultation. Then, what are the legal instruments? What are the legalities that are related to migrant workers, seafarers, fishers, dock workers, indigenous and tribal people, other specific categories of workers? So, it covers almost all the types of people, all the skill sets of people, all the types of their problems, their criterias, and it also covers the freedom, the type of freedom that they have to be, they will be getting as their right of working in an organization. International Labour Organization. The Labour Organization was established as an agency for the League of Nations following the World War I. It was established by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Its founders had made great strides in social thought and action before establishment of the organization itself. It became the first specialized agency of UN in the year 1946. ILO has played a very significant role in promoting labor and human rights. It has held a significant position during the Great Depression of 1930s for ensuring labor rights for the people, for the employees who are working in the organization. It played a key role in the decolonization of processes in the victory over apartheid in South Africa. The organization got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1969 for its efforts to improve peace amongst the various classes of the workers and for promoting justice and fair work for the workers. The ILO has 187 member states, 186 out of 193 UN member states plus the Cook Island. It is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, with around 40 field offices around the world, and it employs about 3,381 staff across 107 nations, of whom 1,698 work in technical cooperation programs and projects. Since 1919, the International Labour Organization has maintained and developed a system of international labour standards. Now, these labour standards aimed at promoting opportunities for men and women at the equality level to obtain decent and productive work at the workplaces. It also considered all the conditions of freedom, equity, security and dignity for the women as well as the men who are working in the organization. In today's globalized economy, international labour standards are an essential component in the international framework for ensuring growth of the global economy. Because if we are not presenting freedom, we are not presenting equity, security to the people who are working for the organization, who are the valuable human resources of the organization, the global economy cannot increase. So as to develop this global economy, to develop the economy to its furthermore extent, we need to check out that what kind of freedom, equity, security and dignity is being provided through international labour standards. It privileges a set of four core labour standards, you can say CLS, consisting of freedom of association. You are free, you can freely associate yourself with any organization and leave the organization as and when you want as an employee. Freedom from forced labor. No one can be forced to work in an organization for a longer period of time or for a certain period of time. You cannot force anyone. And freedom from child labor. The child should not be employed in any kind of organization. The definition of child over here becomes important. The last one is non-discrimination in employment. That means the practices related to hiring of people for an organization, they should be non-discriminated. The discrimination between male and female should not be there, should not be existing in any of the organization. So these were the basic four, you can say, core labour standards on which international labour standards are based. Now, what are the objectives of International Labour Organization? The very first one is improve industrial relations. To ensure effective implementation of 2000 Recognition and Procedural Agreement, the ILO says that it has to improve international labour relations. Improving the existing institutional framework to promote healthy and effective negotiations between the management and the workers who are there in the host country. It should also focus on the job security of the people. That means it precariously work towards a fair contract policy. That means whenever you are involving contracts to employ people, to hire people, the terms and conditions of these contracts should be fair enough. When the contract is going to end, on the end of the contract, how it is going to be renewed, or if it is not going to be renewed, on what grounds you are not going to renew the contracts. These should be clear to the people. It also includes redeployment mechanism. Third is fair and equal conditions of employment for all the staff. Discrimination on the basis of contracts, grades, personal discrimination, family status, or types of duty stations. You cannot make such kind of discriminations within your organization. So it should be very fair and equal conditions that are provided to the people if they are working at the same level in the organization structure. A career development path for all. It is one of the objectives of International Labour Organization. A fair and transparent performance appraisal system is the base for career development path. The negotiated and adequate job classification process, fair recruitment and mobility system, and transparent rewarding mechanism. All this will lead to career development path for the people. If these are there, if it is in fair and transparent form, they are present in the organization, the people will be more satisfied. They will be more satisfied and motivated to work for the organization. Next is an even stronger union. Maintaining and expanding our membership, strengthening solidarity, strengthening capacities, improving operations, communication and coherence between the management and the workers. So the union, the relation between the management and the workers should even be more strong, and that can be done through proper communication to improve with improved operations on whatever operations the people are working. The organization needs to check out that what are the factors, what are the fields or issues on which the people are not satisfied. So once you are trying to improve those issues, improve those situations for the people, the relationship between you as a management and the workers becomes even more strong. Then enhancing staff security, safety and health. Our particular focus on crisis response and conflict affected countries. So whenever there is a crisis in a country or there happens a conflict in a country, in these situations, what kind of security, health or safety you are going to provide as an organization? These are the aspects of International Labour Organization. Now, we need to study the structure of the International Labour Organization. Now, how it is formed, what is the composition, what all are its bodies. ILO is composed of three basic bodies, that is the General Conference of Representative of Member States, which is also called as International Labour Conference. The second is the governing body, and the third one is the International Labour Office. These are the three basic organs through which International Labour Organization applies its conventions or recommendations on the people, on the human resources and the organization which are working in the host country. The International Labour Organization is the only tripartite or UN agency with the government, employer and worker representatives. The tripartite structure, it means it has three-tier structure. It has three parties in its structure, which involves government, employer and the worker representatives. Now when we talk about worker representatives, they are the people who represent the worker as a whole from an industry in that country. This tripartite structure makes ILO a unique forum in which the governments and the social partners of the economy of its 187 member states can freely elaborate labor standards and policy. They work towards the elaboration of standards, they work towards improvement of standards and policies and proper implementation of these policies in the organization. The very first one, International Labour Conference, also called as International Parliament of Labour, which establishes and adopts international labour standards and is a forum of discussion for key social and labour questions. International Labour Conference, it is established for the purpose of discussing all the social issues and the issues or questions that come up from the side of the labour. It also adapts the organization's budget and elects the governing body. This is also the function of International Labour Conference. The broad policies of International Labour Organization are set by International Labour Conference. Now, why is this happening? International Labour Conference actually takes up all kinds of issues. It takes up all kinds of situations and questions that come up from the workers. So they are more aware of various issues related to work, related to safety, health and welfare of the people. So all these form the basic objective for the International Labour Organization. Now, International Labour Conference, it meets once in a year in June in Geneva, Switzerland. This annual conference brings together governments, workers and employers delegates of International Labour Organization member states. So whosoever is the member, the countries which are the member of International Labour Organization, the government's representatives, the workers representatives and the employers representatives, all of them come together to meet once in a year under this International Labour Conference, and they come up with different issues that they are facing, or the workers, they come up with the issues that they are facing in their country, and they sit together with the other countries who are the members of the International Labour Organization. Then again, all of them come to a negotiated statement, they come to an agreement to the different issues that are coming up from various countries. Then this agreement is taken up as conventions or recommendations which are now applied in all the countries who are the member states of the ILO. Now, basic functions of International Labour Conference. It formulates international labour standards. It checks out the various standards. It checks out the various practices, the various issues, the various situations of employer as well as the employee, and it formulates various standards that should be implemented for as related to labours in different countries. It fixes the amount of contribution to be paid by the member states. The type of contribution, the amount of this contribution is fixed by International Labour Conference, which has to be paid by the member states of the International Labour Organization. It also decides on the budget and submits the same to the governing body. That means it elects the governing body as well as it decides the budget for the governing body also. It studies the labour problems submitted by the Director General and assists in their solution. The different labour problems coming from different countries, from different employers associations, or put up by different governments of the different countries, these labour problems are being studied, are studied on the basis of data collected from these particular countries, and in respect these data are compared with the same kind of problem in the other countries also, and after the analysis or the study of this labour problem, the detailed report is being submitted to the Director General, so that probable solutions are reached out, negotiated out, and these solutions are put up as conventions in the different countries. Then appoint committees to deal with different problems during its session. Now, there are different problems when this International Labour Conference happens, and all the problems may not be of the same category. So, there can be different committees for different set of problems. So, appointment of these type of committee who deal with different problems that come up from different countries during this session, it is being appointed by the International Labour Conference. It also elects the president of International Labour Organization. It selects the members of the governing body. It develops the policies and the procedures. Now, that means once it has formulated the standards, once it has studied the labour problems coming up from various countries, analyzing these problems in the sessions, and getting the probable solutions to the committees who are working on these problems, it develops policies and procedures. It also seeks advisory opinion from International Committee of Justice. It confirms the power, functions and procedures of regional conference. So, regional conference, when we talk about regional conference, some of the countries are termed as regional, taken up as a category of regional, and the conference happening over there is termed as regional conference. So, the different problems cannot be brought together at the very first end to the International Labour Conference. First of all, these problems will be solved at the regional level, and this will be done through confirmation of the powers, functions and procedures that will be given by International Labour Conference to different regional offices. Then comes the second one, that is governing body. The governing body is the executive body of the International Labour Organization. Now that means whatever policies or procedures that have been planned by the International Labour Conference or in the International Labour Conference will be actually implemented by this governing body. The office is the secretariat of the organization. It meets 3 times a year in March, June and November. Now when we talk about the governing body, it is a group of people that have the authority to exercise governance over an organization and political entity. So, whatever policies, whatever rules have been decided by in the International Labour Conference, they will be actually implemented by this group of people we are calling as governing body. The most formal of the government, a body whose sole responsibility and authority is to make binding decisions in a given geopolitical system, such as a state, by establishing laws. Now, the governing body establishes laws, prepares laws, conventions or recommendations based on the policies and procedures that are being set up in the International Labour Conference, and actually implementing these laws in different member states of the International Labour Organization. So, the role of governing body becomes more and more important when we talk about International Labour Organization. It is composed of 56 titular members, 28 governments, 14 employers and 14 workers, and 66 deputy members, 28 government, 19 employers and 19 workers. So this is a basic composition where 56 titular members are there and 66 deputy members are there. Now these members are totally responsible for implementation of policies and procedures that are being set up in the International Labour Conference. 10 of the titular government seats are permanently held by states of chief industrial importance like Brazil, China, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom and the United States. The other government members are elected by the conference every 3 years. The last elections were held in June 2014. The employer and the worker members are elected in the individual capacity. What are the functions of governing body? They coordinate between the work of International Labour Conference and International Labour Organization. That means they are acting as a bridge, they act as a mediator between the International Labour Organization and the International Labour Conference. Now they prepare an agenda for each session of International Labour Conference. So whatever is to be discussed in International Labour Conference, that agenda will be prepared by the governing body. Appointment of Director General of the office. Now Director General of International Labour Organization, he will be the appointment, the function of the process of the appointment will be done by the governing body. It will scrutinize the budget that was being sanctioned by International Labour Conference. Follow up with the member states in regards to implementation of the convention and recommendation adopted by International Labour Conference. It fixes the date, duration, schedule and agenda for the regional conferences also. So at the lower level, for the regional states, for the regional sites, it also fixes the date, duration and schedule. Lastly, it seeks as and when required as advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice with the consent of International Labour Conference. So, as and when it is required, advisory opinions are being given up by governing body to the International Court of Justice. In say suppose a specific case that comes up in front of International Labour Court, over there it will help as an advisory committee. Last part or last organ of International Labour Organization structure is International Labour Office. It is a permanent secretariat of International Labour Organization. Its functions are: it prepares brief and documents for agenda of International Labour Conference. It prepares. Secondly, assist the government of the states to form labour legislations based on recommendations of International Labour Conference. So whatever recommendations have been decided upon, have been negotiated upon or finalized in the International Labour Conference, this office will now assist the different governments of different countries to apply them in their labour legislations through conventions. Bring out publications related to international labour problems in the international nature and interest. Now here they are specifically talking about international labour problems. So whatever problems were being discussed in this international labour conference, they will be responsible to bring them out in the form of publication, so that everyone else in the world, they understand the various problems that the labourers are facing in different countries. Then it carries out the function related to the observance of the convention. So if the conventions are being set or decided in International Labour Conference, it carries out the function that it ensures that these conventions are applied in each and every country, and they follow the same convention through their own legal system. It collects and distributes information on international labour and social problems. It also continuously collects the information related to social problems faced by the labor class in different countries, and distribute this information to other members of the committee who will be looking after these problems, and will come up with probable solution after analysis of these problems. It also promotes and realizes standards and fundamental principles and rights at work. It promotes, it implements, it realizes, it checks out, it evaluates every principle is being implemented or not. This continuous inspection is being done by International Labour Office. Lastly, we can say ILO has a very supervisory role in the member countries, and whoever is the member, the labor in those countries, the labor involved in your organization in those countries, you have to abide by the rules, abide by the conventions or recommendations that come up from the way by International Labour Organization. The committee of experts on application of conventions and recommendations. So whatever are the conventions, you have to apply them. Second, there is a tripartite committee on the application of conventions and recommendations. And thirdly, all the member states are required to send the reports which are related to these application of conventions to the ILO as a compulsory action. So these are the things, rules through which the labor can be safeguarded, their rights can be safeguarded in the international aspect. Thank you.